That's why our movement was formed, to fight for them.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Adrian Lloyd, and this is just my stupid opinion. And today, the Democratic Party has always been Canada's third brother, if you want, in the political system. They were there, but they were never significant. Always a minor player, but sometimes necessary for the opposition if they wanted to vote over the sitting party. This happened a lot when Stephen Harper was in office. The Liberals and the NDP government in order to veto whatever they wanted to do. Well, in the 2011 election, when Stephen Harper won his majority government, the Liberal Party took a big dive in support, and the NDP took over, and they became the official opposition, holding the second most members sitting in the House of Commons. And this seemed pretty good for Mulcair going into the 2015 election. He was still in second place, and they had gained a lot of support. In fact, at one point, in win it, they were number one party overall. Never happened before in the history of the NDP. Well, Mulcair managed to botch it. He played it a little bit safe, fell back on his campaign slogan of Stop Harper. He did not like Stephen Harper's government at all, and a lot of people didn't, so it was a good slogan to have. But after a while, that became all he had. And then a few other issues here and there sunk his campaign. And the NDP pretty much ended up back where they started, in third place, with a very small sitting representation in the House of Commons. And Justin Trudeau took office with a majority government. So this build-up to become the most supported party in Canada, and then to have their fall from grace, led the members of the NDP party, new leadership or not. And eventually, the Ayes took it with 52% voting to keep him at where he was. So the NDP took their time before they decided to hold their race. Mulcair was decided out back in April of 2016. And of October, I believe it was October 29th, our new leader for the new Democratic Party. So, who are our candidates? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to see in just a minute. She was a very vocal and outspoken supporter of Bernie Sanders when he was running. She supports tuition-free post-secondary education for everybody nationwide, and he's been very well known for advocating for First Nation rights. Mr. Angus wants to dismantle Indigenous Affairs, which he sees as a problem organization. Maybe a little bit more so after the cabinet shuffle Trudeau did. Then we have Guy Caron. Mr. Caron, or at the very least, we have an elected member of parliament office. So he's kind of jumping in the boat from the get-go. I'll be honest, judging from the way he's gone about candidates to launch his campaign for the leadership. And his platform is pretty standard. Wage introduced for federal workers. And he's kind of what you would expect for their debate in Ottawa. Now, at this time, Jagmeet Singh was not present inside the race, so he missed this. The problem is that was a few hundred years ago. To come out in your debate and the first thing you say is you're on stolen land when you're talking about the capital of your country, not a good start.
Deregulation,
offer their services to us. I mean, I don't want a full socialist. It takes you 2 hours if you're lucky. The other silly thing I find about this is conservatives are actually way better in terms of economics than left-wingers are. It's a budget better. So I find it a little bit funny that she's talking about these problems with these policies and these deregulations. Sometimes the deregulation is necessary.
It's time to take back our country from the rich and powerful and offer fundamental change.
Where have I heard that before?
You privatize it, we nationalize it. You deregulate it, we regulate it.
Well, I guess we know all of...
Thank you for recognizing that we are on unceded Algonquin territory.
What is with these? How recently this land was stolen from? I'm just going to use Wikipedia. Happened way the hell in the past, yet to the modern day in 2017, we're calling our capital of our beloved country stolen land.
I appreciate the dedication of activists. We should listen to them more.
Okay, I'll let him go.
Values. One of these values is the desire to protect the environment and to deal with climate change as well.
Maybe you want to roll that statement back. Alright, let's move on to what Guy Caron has to say. Apparently all these leadership candidates want to extend the government tenfold, and they believe that will make everything better.
I actually worked to develop Eastern Quebec for the NDP. Now, let me tell you, back in 2002, it was actually easier to find a unicorn than finding a New Democrat member in Eastern Quebec.
Today, I acknowledge that we are an unceded Algonquin territory.
Money for everyone! It's got to come from somewhere. So where are we going to take it from? And besides, if we just take a look here, we can see where the debt is currently sitting at. So I don't know if giving out free money. And second of all, well, let's look at it province by province. Well, that's too much work, so we're just going to look at my province, Ontario. Wow. My personal debt is higher in Ontario than it is across the land. I pay less as it is.
I am a democratic socialist, an intersectional ecofeminist, a proud New Democrat in a room of proud New Democrats who inspire me.
I do want to acknowledge we're on the unceded territory of the Algonquin people.
And like the U.S., we have our own Donald Trumps. This didn't just happen. It is because of the neoliberal agenda of privatization, deregulation, austerity, and bad trade deals of successive liberal and conservative governments.
To listen to their hopes and their concerns. So while the Prime Minister waxes on about the middle class, we can talk about the reality of the new working class, which is white collar and blue collar, and endless job cycles, burden and student debt, unable to buy homes in the communities that they love. That's why our movement was formed, to fight for them.
Lenin? Is that you? Because he wasn't involved in because he hadn't thrown his name in for the leadership yet. But he's talked a lot about wealth redistribution, indigenous problems, racial problems. This election run, it's strange, it has brought in a huge amount of support. Resume. And maybe we might even see a switch, possibly. I think part of the reason this boom might be due to Bernie Sanders during the election run, and he's disappointed greatly, so they're trying to go to the NDP as a new possibility. But I think they're just gonna find the same thing there.
It's time to take back our country from the rich and powerful and offer fundamental change.
But he's brought in about 47,000 new members.
You privatize it, we nationalize it. You deregulate it, we regulate it.
I find this is sort of the problem. I find this is a good look at the problems that we see.
Using public and social ownership, creating green jobs in a carbon-free economy.
But, like I said before, they've become a leftist party.
Very much, Mr. Julian, you're next.
Thank you for recognizing that we are on unceded Algonquin territory.
A minimum of one candidate who you want to see elected for a ballot. Conservatives had a round system of voting. It went on until I think there was 12 rounds in the voting system. And it slowly eliminated one candidate to do it this way, where for the NDP leadership, we're just looking at 4 candidates. Got a little off track, but getting back on, the problem 500 members in good standing with the New Democratic Party. I believe it was the same number for the Conservatives. It was 300, not 500, sorry. But It needs 300 member signatures. That's it. Just members. Few regulations here and there, but that's it. Now, if we go back to the NDP, we continue down to B, the nomination signature paper
I appreciate the dedication of activists. We should listen to them more.
members. 50% have to be female members. At least 100 signatures must be from other equity-seeking groups, visible minorities, LGBT.
I know that we both share important values. One of these values is the desire to protect the environment and to deal with climate change as well. This is why I am against the Energy East oil pipeline, and I'm against also Kinder Morgan.
I believe we need to be inspired by and work in partnership with progressive movements in all of their forms.
Say blue next to all the men's names, and we could use, let's say, pink next to all the female names, and then for everybody's got a disability. And so if we're looking at a piece, these two papers next to each other, both the lists from who voted for, who signed on for their candidate, BT, disabled, minority, indigenous.
Back in the mid-90s that I got my political awakening in the political movement, the student movement, fighting against the Jean Chrétien liberals who campaigned on the left, if you remember well, back in '93. And 2 years later, we're actually implementing an agenda of cutting transfer to healthcare and to education. So I thought this, and that's the reason why I actually became an economist.
Dangers of identity politics. And finally, the most recent debate that happened with the NDP was in Montreal. And they kind of proved where they stood with their thoughts on radical Islamic ideology. Anybody who is receiving services or providing services federally can't have their face covered up while they're doing it. So this is obviously strictly going after the niqab, and they all kind of danced around this question by playing both sides. They talked about how it's, of course, far lefties, they had to bring up the race card. And
I actually worked to develop Eastern Quebec for the NDP. Now, let me tell you, back in 2002, it was actually easier to find a unicorn than finding a New Democrat member in Eastern Quebec. That's what my campaign will be about, and this is why the first part of the plan against income inequality will be basic income. I hope you'll join me in this journey. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
And I feel like... But just a bit of an update for the NDP leadership election. I want to thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'm Adrian Lloyd. This is just my stupid opinion. I'll see you soon. If you like this episode, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. And leave your comments in the section below. I'm curious to know what you all think. And if you want to take these episodes mobile, you can download them on SoundCloud and iTunes.
Well, it's taken some time, but we're finally here, so thank you for your patience. I do want to acknowledge we're on the unceded territory of the Algonquin people.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
When I talk to people, ordinary people, they no longer believe politicians or parties. We must do better than that.
We need to rebuild this sense of trust with Canadians, not just with our base, not just with the policies we present, but to the people who believe they've been written off the political and economic map of this nation. To listen to their hopes and their concerns. So while the Prime Minister waxes on about the middle class, we can talk about the reality of the new working class, which is white collar and blue collar, and endless job cycles, burden and student debt, unable to buy homes in the communities that they love. That's why our movement was formed, to fight for them.